Well, this is an exercise in ratio and proportion, and you can see that there are 5 silhouettes over here, and it's easy to label those silhouettes as man, woman, child, baby, and ape because of the proportion of those silhouettes. It's easy to see, for instance, a baby's head is almost a third of its body, and a normal woman and a man's proportions are also different. Now, we're told here to draw a curved line to represent the chin line of each figure. So I've already done that one for the woman, and you have to probably guess more or less that this is where the chin, the ape is a little bit harder because it's hard to tell me where the ape is. The baby, I'll just continue with this, and the child in here. So now we need to measure the lengths of in millimeters of each silhouette. I have a millimeter ruler over here, which I can bring out, and this millimeter ruler, if I can do it on the left hand side, that would be about probably to scale of the real millimeter ruler. So using that millimeter ruler or the real ruler on your page, we will need to measure the following proportions. My measurements came to the following lengths. So 50 for the child, that's in millimeters, 42, 52, 55 for the ape, and 64 for the baby. Now you might do it, it might come up slightly differently, but that's what I got. And then I measured the head, which was from the chin to the crown, and that came up to 10, 5, 6, 9, 18. So to measure the leg of the woman, we would go to the hip, somewhere around here, and all the way up to the ground. And according to my measurements, the leg to hip that I got was 22 for the woman. And to measure the next one, the wrist, the arm, which is from wrist to shoulder. So I'll go from wrist here. It's not writing. Wrist to shoulder. Oh, that was shoulder to wrist, somewhere about here as well. And that number came up to be 13. The torso was from hip joint to shoulder, and that was exactly the same as the arm, which was 13. The waist is there as well, but I don't know why the waist is there, because we don't really need it for any calculations, but that's the waist. Now I did 2 more calculations. I did the calculations of the ones that we will need, and that is 25 for the ape and the arm, and also, okay, so now we're going to need to calculate the ratios. In this table, we were going to have to put in the ratios of the height to head. So for the child, the height was 50, and the ratio, ratio is denoted by those two dots. It was to 10. Okay, so I'm just going to make that clear, and I'm just downloading the information from above to 5, and 52 is to 10, no, to 6, and 55 is to 9, and 64 is to 18. You heard me say is to, because that's what that is actually. we use to say is to. That's the way you say this, is to. So I'm going to now just draw a vertical line, because what we want over here is to write this in the form of x is to 1, okay? The bit. So what we want to do is to write it in the form of something which is proportioned to 1. So 50 to 10. Okay, so let me just show you how you'd work that out. So if I have 50, well, these ratios are really meaningless to me because they do not really tell me. These ratios are meaningless to me because I can't really compare them to anything. So what I really want is to scale them down in the form of something which I'll call x is to 1. Now, my height to head of the child was 50 to 10, and I want to scale it down to 1. If I divide 50 by 10, okay, 50 divided by 10, I will be able to find the answer for that something, which is x. And 50 divided by 10 gives me 5 is to 1, because 50 divided by 10 is 5. So instead of 50 to 10, we have a new scale of 5 is to 1. We'll write that down in here, maybe in another color, black. 5 is to 1. So if we could do that to every single one, we'd have a comparison. Okay, so 42, then for the next one, if we divide 42 by 5, and I've done that already, I should get 8.4 is to 1. Okay, each time I'll get something to 1. If I divide 52 by 6, I will get again a decimal number, but I can't help that. Again, that's going to be to 1. 55 by 9, I will get 6.1 is to 1. 64 divided by 18, I now get 3.6 is to 1. You can see that this is going to be a lot more helpful to me. This column over here, looking at this yellow column, is allowing me to see the proportion in relation to each particular person. You will see that, for instance, a child is that the height of the child is 5 times bigger than its head. The baby's height is 3.6 times bigger than its head. And a man and a woman has a height of 8 times almost bigger than its head, whereas the ape, its body is 6 times bigger than its head. So this is how this can be helpful. I can fill the second column in similar way. I can write 50 is to, but I don't have the leg because I haven't yet done that calculation there. You'll have to do that. And I can do the woman as being 42 height, but I do have her calculation, which is 22. So I'll write 22 here. That's good. At least I have that. And for the others, for the man, it'll start with 52 is to something that I need to calculate. and the ape is 55 is to something, which I'll need to calculate, and 64 is to something, which I need to calculate. So once again, I need to now change it from to 1. So remember what we did before. 42 is to 22 would be the same way as if I divided 42 divided by 22. That'll give me 19 is to 1. Okay, you will need to calculate all the rest yourself. I'll just go and do the height there again. So in the height for the woman, it'll be 42 is to 13, because I've got that scale. And I also have the measurements for the ape's arm, so I can say that that's her 55 is to 25. And then I can do the torso height for the woman, which is 42, because the woman's height is always 42, and her torso is, in yellow, 13. Okay, I should have made these two in green so that we can be consistent throughout. Okay, so that's all I've got calculated here for you, but that's the general way that we're going to be calculating it. Now, and sorry, I'll just draw a line here, and I'll draw a line here that you are going to need to now calculate. So when I'm looking at this this height here, where I've got the green, 42 is to 13. How do I change it to something is to 1? I divide 42 by 13. That will be 3.2 is to 1. The same thing goes for this one here. Oh, I'm not getting it. 42 divided by 13, once again, will be also 32. 3.2 is to 1. Okay. Having done that, we are now asked to do a few questions where we use ratios to answer the questions. The first question that you are given is, okay, if a woman is 160 centimeter tall, how long are her arms? Well, let's have a look at the height and arms. Height and arms. We're going to look at this in the column of height to arm. We find that her proportion should be 3.2 to 1. Can you see that? 3.2 to 1. The woman is really 160, and we want to know what her proportion, how long her arms will be here. We don't know about her arms, so we'll say arms. Now, we know that the proportion of torso to arms is 3.2 to 1. So if we divide 160 by 3.2, we will find out what that proportion for the arms will be. So 160 divided by 2, 160, right? Divide that by 3.2. Okay, can you see that? Will give me 50. So that is equal to 50. So that means that my the proportion of my arms will be 50 centimeters. So I will write down the answer. It'll be 100. I'll write it down here. So it'll be 160 is to 50. All right, the question is, how long are her arms? Okay, her arms are 50 centimeters. That is the answer. Okay, now the same thing. The baby is really 60 centimeters tall. So we will write down, use a different color this time, 60. Okay, and we want to find its head. So I'll just write head down over here. Looking in the height to head for the baby, I noticed that it is 3.6 is to 1. Okay, if just in case you haven't noticed where it is, I'm going to see. No, I can't seem to point it out to you, so that's all right. It's in that column where the height and the head is. Once again, what are you going to do? You're going to, in that case, divide 60 by 3.6, and that will give you a head. 3.6 divided by 16, 16.666. Okay, 16.666. Well, that really, don't bother about that. Just make it 16.7. And we're still doing centimeters, so it'll be centimeters. So the answer is that the head will be 16.7 centimeters. The question now changes slightly because now we're asked how tall is the ape that has arms 75 centimeters long. So we want to know the height of the ape, and its arms are 75 centimeters long. The ratio of this, which we haven't yet calculated, so let me just do it straight away. That's the height to the arms is 55 is to 25, and that actually ends up being 2.2 is to 1. So we can confidently write that the height is 2.2 is to 1. Okay, now this looks a little bit different, doesn't it? So we've got we want to know what the height is, knowing that we want to know what the height is, yep. Knowing that the arms are 75 centimeters long, and knowing that the proportion is 2.2 times 1. So this time we're going to multiply 2.2 multiplied by 75 centimeters, and we get the height to be 240 centimeters, which sounds like a pretty good height for an ape who's probably about 2 meters and 2.4 meters tall. That's what I get. All right, so we know that the height of the ape is height of ape. How do you spell height? Height of ape. Height of ape is 240 centimeters. And lastly, man measures 25 centimeters chin to crown. How tall is he? Well, how tall is he? What's his height if his chin to crown is 25? We've got to find the ratio for the chin to crown, 8.7 to 1. All right, so we write 8.7 to 1. Again, we multiply these two, 8.7, because that's how much bigger he is, to 25 centimeters. 25 is the head centimeters. What happens if we multiply these two together? So multiplying these two together, I get 8.7 times 25. I get 217.5 centimeters.